Morning, everybody. It is seconds away from 9 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order for our special council meeting regarding budget talks, budget deliberations. We need a confirmation of the agenda this morning as presented. Someone care to move that, please? Martin? Barb? All those in favor? That is carried. I had the okay.
Not recording.
Sounds like it's working. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this morning's agenda? Not seeing any. If one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can declare it at any time. We need to resolve into committee of the whole for further discussions. Someone move that, please. Monica, thank you. And Jim, all those in favor? That is carried. Now need to appoint a chair. Barb?
I would move to appoint Mayor Milne.
Is there a seconder? Jason? Any other nominations? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, then, moving right along. The first report is from Clerk Lindsay Green this morning regarding training and conference budget information. Would someone care to move that, please? Jason and Jim, thank you. Madam Clerk, Lindsay, good morning.
Morning, through you, Mayor Milne. Most of the information's in the report. Council asked us to, or me to bring back this information. I am recommending that council put 6,000 back in, which will help with some of the conferences for staff and some professional development.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for the clerk? Discussion? Martin.
Just a comment. We talked about infrastructure. Cash always talks about the infrastructure, keeping up our assets. And after reading Lindsay's report, I don't see any problem with building up our assets as far as staff. So I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. The next report comes to us from our fire chief, Derek Melnick. That's as far as my printed agenda goes, so I'm going to go back here to the one online. This is resolving. Yeah, this is about training and education and wages and some other things that we discussed at the last budget meeting. So I need someone to move that, please. Barb, seconded by Monica. Welcome, Chief. Morning.
Good morning, members of council. The only thing I really have to add to this report is we have the attachment on the back that shows sort of a rough market check that is being utilized by a lot of Grey County departments as well as Dufferin departments since we put it together in November. And they have actually taken it to upgrade some wages of their own. So yeah.
Thank you, sir. Discussion, questions? Barb?
Through you, Chair. I actually noticed the numbers have been brought down quite a bit. It's now less than 20,000. And I think that, again, to Councillor Shipston's point, building our team and our base, they're not career firefighters, but they still need the training and the development. And it's getting harder for people to commit the time in a volunteer capacity when they're trying to make ends meet, working their jobs. So I actually support this, and I'm sure that we'll find some savings elsewhere to support our fire department.
Anyone else? I guess I'll maybe make a couple comments myself. In general, I support this, but I guess my concern is that particularly for the public education, the community event, most of it, if not all of our community events are run by volunteers. And they're not getting any compensation to do that. It concerns me a bit when some people at an event are getting paid and some people aren't getting paid. It just creates a little bit of unevenness, I guess I'll call it. How strongly, Chief, are you on that piece of this report?
So through the chair, part of the pub ed is not really volunteer, it's mandated through the province that we have to do it. And it's an educational component of the fire service, one of our 3 lines of defenses. With that knowledge and time, it's hard to get members right now with their increased training as well as call volume to get them to just give up a Saturday to come do that for free. So we're asking minimum dollars here. Again, if an event's 2 hours, they're getting 2-hour pay, they're getting $40. And when we're comparing ourselves to all other neighboring departments, they're all getting paid. So there's that conversation that's happening between departments. I would think it's in the best interest to pay them for some of these events. And that's where we've narrowed it down as well. We've been able to crunch some numbers to what we actually need to be. With that as well, we don't need to open it up to everybody. Not 8 people or 10 people are going to these events. We're going to schedule shifts. So say at Maple Fest, you're going to see 4 people there working for 8 hours, providing education, not just hanging out and walking around. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I understand. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I understand. Barb.
I can relate to what you're saying. I was wondering when they are there as a fire service, whether they have a fire truck, whether they have the side-by-side and they have the trailer, are they also providing any medical aid or any, I know they're providing education, but should an incident occur, I've seen them go into action.
Through the chair, yeah. For these events, there's been incidents that have happened, and they don't get paid. Currently, the way they've been working, we just put it as it was public education. They were there at the right time, so they don't receive any compensation for that. We don't treat it as a call.
Yeah. No, that's not surprising to hear. Okay, any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And good morning, Joan. Next report is from our HR manager, Kayla Best. It's regarding the council health benefits report. Someone care to move that, please? Monica, second by? Jim, thank you. Kayla, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. In the last meeting of the budget, we were asked to bring back cost for council benefits. So this report outlines the cost as well as what the parameters are for receiving benefits. There was found to be 5 people that are eligible currently.
Thank you, Kayla. Any questions? Barb.
So, thank you, through you, Kayla. Whether or not this term of council, 5 members are eligible, and it would be a requirement to offer it to all members in a future term, that it could virtually be 7 members who would be eligible, depending on who's elected. Excuse me. Which means the cost would be in excess of $35,000 if all 7 members had been eligible. And this is bringing, the benefits would be equal to or comparable to that which the employees are getting, as far as what we're proposing they're getting for dental and health.
Yes. So in order to be added to our group benefits, you do have to offer the exact same package. We can't pick and choose what council members would receive versus employees. It would be all under the same umbrella. And yes, it depends. The next term of council, maybe we would have 7 eligible members, so then the cost would increase.
So I contacted our neighboring municipalities, and there's only 3 in gray. that have benefits. Owen Sound pays for 50% of the cost. And Grey Highlands is, wow, they have CPP and they have, which is a significant contribution of wages. I can't in good conscience support, even though I would be eligible, I can't support giving ourselves benefits or a raise midterm. We knew what the remuneration was coming into this term. I would support following these other three municipalities' lead and striking a council remuneration committee that's made up of public members only. There's a couple of terms of references out there. And so that we're prepared as a council to consider the remuneration for the next term. So I won't be supporting this, but I wanted to thank you for bringing the information forward. As much as I would benefit from it, I can't possibly vote for it. Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Martin, go ahead.
Comment. I talked to Keller about this. I was in the office and she was there, so we had a good chat and she answered some of my questions, but still a hinge pin for me is we're not employees of the township. We're elected officials, and anybody who at the election time decided to get into third tier politics, they should have looked at what they were getting into, quite frankly. That's just personal opinion. But I think we get compensated quite well. I never thought of what Deputy Mayor was talking about a liaison committee or whatever. But yeah, I have an issue with that. And also, listening to the radio this morning, it just came to me that, you know, here we are. We've been the last month talking about the budget. Jason challenged the staff to bring it down even lower because we've heard about the talks about, you know, 3 people here, you know, working 3 jobs, these people this, these people that, you know, the food bank. I use the food bank. I'm proud of it. I'm thoroughly glad it was there. But the fact remains, here we are talking about budget, and then we're asking for 25,000 to be added for a pay raise, basically. And that's what it is. It's a pay raise. And I don't think the optics are good right now, quite frankly.
Thank you, Martin.
I'm against.
Joan?
Thank you. Through the chair, Kayla, I have a question. Does this $5,000 cover dependent and spouse or common law? Or is there an additional amount to cover spouse and dependents?
Yes, that amount covers family, so it's dependents and spouses as well.
Sorry.
Question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
I noticed in your staff report, goal 10 position, Southgate as a leading small rural municipal employer. I just want to rally back on what Councillor Shipson said. I thought Southgate councillors are part-time employees, and part-time employees does not necessarily qualify for health benefit unless, I mean, we want to do it. That's what the Employment Standard Act does not really require employees to provide health insurance to part-time employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Any other discussion, questions? Monica?
Good morning, everybody. And thank you so much through you, Chair, to Kayla for such a comprehensive report. I would like to offer a different perspective. I really respect the sentiments that has been spoken here. And while council elected positions are not traditional jobs by any sense, and while it is advertised as 25 hours, I think that all of us on council know that we're close to 25 hours. There's a lot more that goes into that for this position. And again, I do hear everyone's sentiment about health and dental benefits. And I get it. We have to be careful with the township money. And when I take a look at the roles and responsibilities, the decision-making that we do, the policies that we make, we are governed by municipal act. We are mandated to be at meetings. We have orientation binder. We have training that we do go through. By every perspective of what a job or work would be considered, council member is work. And I say that proudly. And as volunteering, you can volunteer one day and have a heart to change the next. But when you take an elected position like this, you don't have a next day to say, I just want to walk away from it. you can, but this in my understanding and the way I look at it is very much work. It's very much a lot of hours that are put into it, as much as everyone can do. When we take a look at cost of adding these benefits, from my understanding, through you, Chair, which I would present to the Deputy Treasurer, just to kind of break down the numbers a little bit to get us a understanding. But from what I have seen, and I was really thoughtful in thinking about all of this, is less than 0.5% of the overall budget that we're looking at. And we do spend a lot of money on different things. When we take a look at the jobs that we have to make sure that we are at our best to be able to serve the community and be at our best for them, having benefits is a simple, basic health and dental. I don't think is so outrageous, and we're not even setting a precedent. This is something that's already been practiced in different municipalities. When we just take a look at Hanover, Minto, Great Highlands, Orangeville, Blue Mountains, and there's probably a lot more, and it's more coming. I believe also CAO has mentioned Wasaga. I think where before had it too, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Saga does have benefits, I believe.
Yes. So, I mean, putting together a remuneration committee, I'm completely for that. But in addition to that, that is also resources being put towards it. It's a big change for a really it's a smart change, I think, that would be adding to it. It's not something that is for personal benefit. None of us know if we'll be here next council term or not, but it'll prepare for the next council term. And while I do understand that research does go into this job, there are nuances and dynamics about being a council member that you don't know until you're in it. So we can only know so much until it's like having a baby. You don't know what it feels like until you push it out. All right, to be quite honest, it's the kind of same thing. You don't know every dynamic or nuance about things, just being real with it. And then with that being said, the dynamics and demographics of council has changed in terms of there are different people who would like to be on council, but it's not a fact of wanting to get it to have some lucrative career. We all be real simple about it. This is not something to get into to get rich, and none of us are doing that for that. We're facing a lot of scrutiny. We're facing a lot of responsibilities. We are also having, to take a look at liabilities, things that we have to put into understanding of what this entails. So while people would want to be on council and run for council, how are people supposed to do that if they will not even see a basic health and dental for some people? Because there's a thank you, Jim. There could be like basically people who are just, thank you, retired and rich, or a certain mindset of people that are allowed to be on council then. There are many people who want to run, but just simply won't for that. So for all intents and purposes, and many people go on to make politics into a career, and this is work. I don't say that, I say that very blessed to be in this position, very thankful to be in it. I did my homework coming in, but policies evolve, things change, and our overall assessment of constituents and our portfolios will be changing because we are increasing from 2018 to now. Our population has increased. There is going to be more time to be involved. Some of us are putting in 20 to 30 hours in studying and understanding, reaching out to constituents, showing up to public events. We're part of different committees, different councils, and we do receive a stipend, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that it's been recognized that this is a work. Again, very happy to say that. So I do bring that perspective in, whatever the council decides in the end. And just to, just keep in mind, again, if we're able to have that understanding that we are doing a work, it's not setting a precedent, it's a drop in the bucket. While it may be 7 council members next term, it could be 0. Because if everyone comes in doing jobs, then it would drop. So I would just, through you, Chair, just to Deputy Treasurer, if you wouldn't mind, just to kind of break it down a little bit more, what the cost would even look like. Maybe averages so people get an understanding.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. Any other comments? Did you have your hand up, Cash?
No, I believe the councillor asked a question
Oh, okay, go ahead.
through you, Your Worship. So putting the 25,000 into the budget would be an increase of 0.15% to the blended rate.
Very good. Thank you. Jason.
I guess I'm coming from the perspective of Barb and Martin. Well, I'm always looking out for the taxpayer. I can't in good conscience take it. I don't qualify anyway, to be honest, but even if I could, I wouldn't. As far as a committee, I can maybe push back on Barb a bit. I think at the end of this term, I don't know if we need a committee, maybe just set it up, have a meeting. Council decides what the next council's making. We've already given ourselves a raise, and so, and you guys give yourself a good raise at the county, I heard. Anyway, I'm saying we should set it up. We set it up for the next council, and that's what it is. Going ahead in a time. So yeah, I'm against it, but I understand Monica's points for people that don't have it, but I'm gonna say 75% of the taxpayers don't have benefits. So yeah, I'll be against it. But I don't think we should spend the money on a committee per se, just have a meeting maybe and set it for the next council. Barb?
And just to clarify, the the council remuneration committees that I've read about in the 3 municipalities are uncompensated. They're members of the public. It actually provides better public consultation as well, so that we hear what the municipality, what the residents feel would be appropriate for the council of the day. And I agree that it should be, if there is a committee struck, it would be for the next term, like it would be in this term to bring a recommendation to council. And that way we are receiving what the public believes is based on what other municipalities are doing. And it kind of removes us a little bit from the equation.
Anyone else? Martin?
Through the chair, I'd like Lindsay to take a recorded vote on this one.
Okay, thank you. So noted when we get to that point. Anyone else? I guess I could just add that counselors it's always a difficult conversation, whether it's compensation or benefits or anything else to do with how council is compensated for their time. And over the years, I've been part of a number of conversations regarding that. And I've always found that counselors always tend to shortchange themselves. I'm not ashamed to say that we as a group or as a cohort put a lot of time into our communities. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of time that nobody sees. We all do that. And I'm sure that if you're not interested in benefits, you certainly would save your employer a lot of money by turning those benefits down, whether you're eligible for them or not. But I think it is something that council should consider. Now that a recorded vote has been called, I will be supporting the recommendation. Because as to Barb's point, I will say that it is a barrier to some people if they don't have benefits in the job that they're doing. And I do think that we need to be removing as many barriers as we can to encourage more people to consider a run at council. So anything we can do to remove those barriers, I think is a positive thing to do. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for myself. Anyone else have any more comments? Monica?
Yes, just through chair to your comments. And again, this is an understanding that we are all here to do the best that we can and with what we have. And I completely understand before entering into things to understand them. But again, same thing like we do with budget, same thing we do with policies. They're meant to be reviewed. They're meant to be a second look at. And just what the deputy treasurer shared, 0.15% based on 5 eligible. So that means if a member became eligible elsewhere, that would drop. So it's such a nominal cost that it's really a drop in the bucket, to be honest. And for those who are, I think all of us have other jobs and are working 40, 50 hours on top of our council duties. And it's just a matter of, having that basic health and dental. And just coming from a background of working in municipal government for so many years, and then coming from a line of farmers and tradespeople and professional accountants and professors from all across the board, just from a humanity perspective, having a basic health and dental coverage, doing the job that we are, and having that access and having that report from staff, that is the recommendation that has been brought forth. I mean, I don't see it not being a good thing, and it is admirable we all want to save the taxpayer money, and we are taxpayers ourselves. So we want to remember everything we're doing, we're putting our own into that. So that I would just, agree with the mayor on that is something that should be considered. And I think public perception and the people I've spoken to, they already assumed that we were getting some kind of dental and healthcare. And especially there's a paramedical that's needed, the stress and burnout. We just having that access to that healthcare, people with their families and kids, well, individually, some may not need it, extending that over to those that could need it to at least have the access to the plan. I don't think it's a big precedent we're setting. It's pretty much status quo industry standards. And I probably just would ask, just through you, Chair Kayla, to comment in terms of industry standards, would this be something that's commonly done in, with employees and council to have a group and benefits plan?
Kayla?
Yes, thank you. I believe that it is becoming more common. I think that there is a mix right now out there of whether council members have it or not. For sure, employees, it's common. Generally, it is part-time employees that are 25 hours a week or more. But as far as council, it seems to be a mix, but I believe it is becoming more common.
Thank you.
Okay. One last call. I'll call the Madam Clerk, did you have something to add?
Recorded vote.
Oh, recorded vote. My apologies. I forgot already. All right, Madam Clerk, if you do the recorded vote, please.
Sure, through you, Mayor. Recorded vote was called for staff report HR 2024-001, council health benefits. Counselor Rice,
No.
Counselor John, Deputy Mayor Dobreen,
No.
Counselor Singh Soares,
Yes.
Counselor Shipston,
Nope.
Mayor Milne,
Support.
Counselor Ferguson.
Yes.
By a vote of 4-3, that has lost.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Moving on to the next report is from our treasurer, Taylor McMahon. And she is here to take us through where we're at with the draft budget at this point. So Taylor, good morning, welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me today. I got some feedback that I talked too quietly, so.
I can hear you.
I'll try to project more this time. Okay, so as per our last budget meeting, we're now at the February 21st for the second round of the presentation. And then with a third round coming March 6th, if there's any more deliberation, and then budget adoption at the 20th of March. So I've kept this slide in there. I did add some things per Councillor Rice. I spoke to our insurance company and they were able to clarify some of the increases. There's been significant increases in property values throughout all of the municipalities' properties. The auto fleet has increased since 2023, and then we have an ongoing and upward trend of claims, unfortunately. The rest of the information on this slide has remained the same, besides the point about the market check from 2023. We've adjusted that number to the 180 to reflect the reserves usage against the $360,000.
Taylor, would you like questions as we go?
We may as well.
Okay, so is there any questions on that slide? Jason?
I guess I'll go back to the trending ongoing of claims. I don't know if Jim can talk to that, or is that accidents, or what is that? Like, is that, do we know?
I
Or
think they're mostly related to Jim. Yeah.
maybe it's not. I just wondered about.
Good morning, good people. The last claim we had was the truck that had to go swerve to miss the dog and went in the ditch. That was the last auto claim that we proceed with. There are some litigations in court that maybe council's had some closed session information on. that are ongoing. And some of them have been maybe 2 years going on and no settlements reached at this point in time. So as far as I know, those accidents would be motor vehicle accidents. But to my recollection, that is where we stand currently as our latest claims put forth. So.
Thanks, Jim. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, or
Go
could
ahead.
Dina expand on that, or is I mean, I get it, it says ongoing claims, that's kind of,
Yeah, that's correct. And Jim's correct when you say, like, when we have insurance claims, sometimes they are litigation. And that can drag on for a long period of time. And I'm not sure of the date of that particular motor vehicle incident, but that would affect your insurance a year or so later. But there is significant trend with property values going up. That is a significant portion of it as well. So the claims part of it is just sometimes it catches up later, and insurance claims regarding litigation do affect it as well.
Thank you, Dina. Good. Actually, 15% isn't that bad compared to what it's done on the last 2 or 3 years. Barb, go ahead.
I was actually going to say that as well. I think we had 35% last year, 30% the year before. And their presentation to council was, we were doing pretty good compared to some. Didn't feel that way at the time. But also I noticed in this summary is that our auto fleet, the number of assets, not just the value, but the number of assets has increased. So that's a good thing, because we're, growing our fleet in order to, it's a higher standard of service. So 15%, I understand, is pretty much standard across municipalities as a base this year.
Yes.
From what I've read.
Thank you. Who is our broker currently? Intact is the insurance company, but who's the broker
NFP.
in Dundalk?
That's a terrific question.
I think they were bought out
Yeah.
by another
so
company.
Our, So our,
I think
the person
NFP's
that
been sold
we,
as well. Sorry, go ahead.
the person that we deal with, Carl, who has presented to councils a couple of times now, is based out of Oshawa.
Okay, thank you. Jason.
that was one of my other questions. Like how aggressively do we look for other I know there's not many doing it, but I had a conversation with a counselor in Wellington North, and I know they were able to get theirs down quite a bit by changing companies. So do we look for that? Like I think it was 180,000 cheaper or something. So I don't quote me. It was quite significant, anyways. Yeah. I just wonder how hard we look, because I mean that's a pretty sad. I get what you're saying, but oh well, it's only 15. We should be happy. Like I know the world like that's world's pathetic.
I agree.
Yeah,
Dina.
Staff can certainly add that to the list of things that we want to improve for certain. I'm not sure if the treasurer has it on her work plan this year, but potentially we could look at quoting or RFPing.
I know it's easy to beat up an insurance company, so I'm not going to try to defend it. But I challenge anybody here to try to insure vehicles for the price they are now and the rate they're going up in value.
Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, there's just a comment, the insurance rates for last year, Barb mentioned it, 35%, it was 30, it was 25. And yeah, it is funny to say 15. Oh, that's great. Well, like you said, you still have to be insured. Comment to Jason, what did they give up in their insurance policy to drop it, whatever amount it was, right? So, but just by the statistics, you can see it's an organic thing. It'll go up and down. And when we're looking at our assets, some of those older assets might have to be sold off, right? Any new buildings will have to be, they're going to want to have a look at green initiatives, climate green, to keep it you know, energy proficient and safe and what all those other boundaries are. So it could go down to 8% because of the stuff that we're going to be doing in the future. So if this is what it is, unfortunately, it is what it is. So.
Barb?
Through you, quick question. Would we need to provide direction to seek to staff to look at getting quotes from other insurance? I know there's very few out there that provide municipal insurance.
Through through this process, I think we're in the budget process and this is our insurance for this year. I think it's kind of out of scope of this meeting to talk about that, but staff have heard you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, all right, let's, we'll move on to the next slide, please.
Okay, and then these deferred items have mostly stayed the same with the exception of all of the projects that we added for gyms against the reserves based on the last meeting. And then you've heard from Lindsay for her training and conferences. The tractor for rec still remains out at this point. The training for finance remains out, and then I've updated the numbers to reflect Derek's report this morning that we've added back in.
Barb?
So the items under Public Works are still out?
Yes, those are the ones that remain out based on the last meeting.
It differs from my notes, but
If you look,
I thought that at the very end, it was suggested by perhaps Councillor Shipston that we add that back in the plow truck.
I think these ones are in now.
Sorry, Lindsay.
Or is
These
this
ones
what
here.
was deferred and now there's another slide that's going to add them back in?
No, these remain deferred as of right now.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Think.
Mhm. I thought that-
Yeah.
I thought that was added back in.
Martin?
Yeah, I did mention last meeting about the plow, and then there was discussion and I took it away because there was another road going in place of, so just can't correct it there.
Barb?
So my other question was we're not at that slide yet. So I'll wait.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Okay, and then, so the changes from round one. So we initially presented 7.62. With the wages reduction per the last meeting, we reduced it by 1.17%. And then the inclusion of the public works projects were a 0% increase to the tax base, but the total was $826,800 funded through reserves, leading us to a 6.45 presentation today.
Barb?
This is where I had my question. So if we could get clarification through you, Mayor, or Chair, the adding road 15, 10 to 12, and I think we also did 8 to 10. Jim at the last said that that was ×2. So is the 336,800 the total amount? Or is that ×2 for the lift and for the full stretch from 8 to 12?
Did you want to speak to this?
Yep.
one?
So in the initial budget, there was the one block in there of 15. So we've added the second block in, so the 336 is additional for that work to take place for the second block. So in total, the 700 and change for from 8 to 12 on 15.
But it wasn't additional. It was already in. We were keeping it in. Now we're just adding the one road back in. So,
Correct.
okay, thank you. And I noticed that on one of the slides, you're recommending a 2% contribution to reserves. This 826,000 was actually going to be funded from sale of property that could be going to reserves.
It could be, correct.
So adding 2% in order to put money back into reserves that we're going to use for items that I actually support putting the money into roads, but maybe we should be looking at sharing that $826,000 by maybe doing 50% so that we can put 50% in reserves. That would satisfy your 2% into reserves. We would get some of the projects done. That would be my comment right now.
So with the 6.45 increase, it's $21.18 per month for the taxpayer for a total yearly impact of $254.20.
So to be clear, that's the increase,
Yeah,
right? Just because it's not entirely clear on
Sorry.
that slide, but that's the increase, not just what you're paying.
yeah,
Okay,
if only.
good. Thank you.
Okay, so then, as Barb had mentioned previously, further considerations to impact the tax rate. So we have the clerk's training going back in from earlier at 0.04%. The additional fire wages at 0.11%, disregarding the council benefits. So that would lead to 6.6% if we go no further and suggest nothing for reserves. And then if we do want to add any amount to reserves, which I think would be a good suggestion going forward, if not included in this round, would lead us to 8.6% for the tax increase for the year.
Well, I guess what I was thinking, if I might speak up, was similar to maybe what Barb was thinking. If we go back to slide 6, the changes from round 1, all of the road projects that we put back into the budget or put into the budget at the last meeting, all of that was going to be funded from reserves.
Correct.
Which was going to be replenished to some extent from the sale of land. So rather than do that back and forth thing, I'm wondering, do we fund some of those road projects from taxes? So that when the land sale comes, that goes back into reserves to increase the reserves rather than just replenish them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking something similar to the maybe a 1%, was it 167?
Yes.
Was that 1% roughly? So that would pay for about half of road 15, 12 to 10. That project, or pick any project you want, it doesn't matter, but that thereby, maybe pushing the increase rather than the 2%, push it back up 1% so that, we come out at 7.6 or something thereabouts. Because quite honestly, I think, as we just saw with the insurance discussion, a 15% increase, while we think, well, that's not bad compared to what we've seen in the last couple of years, those are the kinds of increases that we're faced paying. I don't know what kind of a percentage you'd put on a new vehicle, but it's probably more than 15. Asphalt, wages, all the rest of it. And I would agree with Councillor Rice's assertion that if we're going to put taxes up, and we are, any increase needs to be linked to getting more work done or getting more stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be confused with the provincial government with Getting It Done Act, but nonetheless, I think it sells better if we're getting stuff done for that extra tax dollar. And, I recall back even to the debates at the election. Many candidates, not all of them got elected, but many candidates agreed that we need to get more stuff done. Our roads need more attention because everybody uses roads. or most everybody uses the roads. So that would be my suggestion, but of course, it's not my decision, it's council's decision, so I'd be interested to hear what others think of that proposal. Martin?
Initially, I went through it and I did talk to Akash that same morning with Kayla, and we talked about infrastructure deficit and all that. And we've been talking about 1% the last 5 years, putting it in. So I was quite, 2%. Wow, we're finally getting to do it. Right. And I totally agree with Brian. I never thought of that aspect of putting some stuff back into a tax, using some of the reserves, because we talked about how much as a benchmark should we keep in there for whatever might happen, right? So if we want to go that route and do a 1% roads levy, like we've talked about, for taxation, and then put the roads back into tax and use sales to put back into reserves, we're adding taxes through reserve, that 1%. Any sales go into perhaps not roads, but a general reserve where it could be used, like Deputy Mayor said. So I never thought of that aspect, but I certainly agree with you. And if it puts it back up to 7.62, that was what was expected anyway.
Right.
And staff have taken it down from what, 13.5? So that makes sense to me from what you said there, so. And we're getting things done.
We've come a long way, baby. I don't know what that was gonna, I forget who that was from. Did someone over here?
Doug Ford, wasn't it?
Sorry? Oh, Barb, go ahead.
Just to follow up on that, I can see where you're going. Will there be in the next round, a summary of those uncontrollable costs that we are experiencing? I know that in the past, we've communicated to the public what's out of our control. We've got increased insurance costs. We've got the cost of gravel and sand because the province delayed approving our licensing of the pit for 5 or however many years. We've got decreased funding from the province. We have increased policing, which again is out of our control. We don't get to control that budget. And I mean, there's probably a half a dozen other uncontrollable costs, just fuel expense, carbon tax, construction price increase. Those things all contribute to this, whatever it's 6.5 or 7.5%. And we're still getting things done. We'll call it our get her done net. But I would like to see that. And I think the public would be surprised at just how much downloading or uncontrolled costs are built into this budget.
Yep.
Thank you.
Lindsay, did you have something?
We do have a draft motion that does what you're looking for if we're at that point.
Oh, okay. All right. But
whenever.
all right. Thank you. Martin, go ahead.
I'll just piggyback on what Deputy Mayor said about things we can't control. And the policing is one of them. And I wouldn't doubt that next time around when we look at the report came in, I think there was a report from the police.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a betting man, but I think for 2025, their fee will probably go up a percentage point of our taxes just to cover their wages. So there are things we can't control. And there are things we obviously can't. So the insurance we can control by maybe not buying as many cars for the fleet, or, getting the claims finally out of the courts, that's going to affect it. So yeah, there is a lot that people don't know about. So anyway, just a comment.
Thank you, Martin. Anyone else? Jason.
Well, I guess to your point, I understand your point, but I think in my motion, the reason I had said we use reserves now and then use the sale of the pit, in my mind, the pit it's been there for gravel for the roads, not for recreation, not for that's what it's been used for. So I get you're only selling it once, but to me, You know, we use the reserves, we sell that, and we just put them back. It doesn't touch the tax base, and that's what those pits were there for anyway. I don't know, that's just, I still like that idea, but I get what you're saying too. I just want to spend money on roads, put it that way. It's, because like you said, I get, we all like the arena, we all like the library, but if you haven't got a road to get there, and we're not in a, you know, a big center where everybody's walking, if you haven't got a road, then not much sense having a library or arena. So I don't know. I did, to me, it's roads, because I said before, that's maybe I'm running in a different crowd, but that's all I hear about is the roads pretty much. So I'd like to keep the tax rate as low as we could and then spend as much as we can on the roads. You know, if we're gonna go that way, then I'd almost say let's put it to 10% and do a bunch more roads. Because I think that would resonate with, but anyway.
Whoever's taking the minutes, catch that?
Jason, oh, well,
Councillor Rice wants to push the increase to 10%.
if you're gonna put it on the roads.
Oh,
You forgot that part.
Did I?
The media does that sometimes, yeah.
I'm not the media.
Oh,
Anyway, point taken. Thank you. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, if you have a motion there that we could consider.
I do. So it would be it resolved that the committee recommend that council direct staff to amend the draft budget to fund $167,422 of the road 1510 to 12 CIP pay 50 mil HL4 project from taxation.
Okay,
can
just when I have someone care to move that, we'll put it on the floor first and then someone care to move that? Martin, second. Joan, thank you. Discussion. Jason and then Barb.
Well, I had that highlighted in here on attachment 2, page 18. It showed a current year taxation for that project at 357,000 already. Am I reading that wrong or?
Jim?
That was the initial budget discussion for,
Okay,
but it was for just one block, not the two. So that was the initial,
And
and
it was
then
gonna
we
get the
added the
taxes.
336. I believe so, yes.
Yeah, the 357,200 was all taxation. And then the 336 added was all reserves at that point.
Okay, but then our discussion last time, I thought it was all gonna be. So it was still gonna hit the taxation, the one part of it?
The additional portion of it, but
Oh.
since the first half was already taxation, I kept it like that.
Okay,
That's how I understood the report.
So the 336 for the other half or the other block, we changed at the last, or we suggested at the last meeting would be paid for through reserves.
Right.
That's why.
Okay, I thought it was all.
Yeah, no, the original block was just, it was taxation. So the block we added, but now through this motion, half of that second block will now be, if we get agreement, half of that second block would be paid for through taxation. Any other discussion? Jason?
So we're just talking about this specific project here in this motion or?
That's what the motion calls for, yeah. Yep. Barb, sorry. Yep.
No, that's quite all right. I didn't have my hand up, but Jason did create one in my head. So just to be clear, we are still going to do the proposed road work as outlined here, but we're going to take half of the cost of 10 to 12 from taxation.
Right. Or approximately half, whatever that works
Just
out.
thank you.
Yep. Jason?
So could I add to the motion that if we do that, any sale of the pit, is that reaching too far? Any sale of the pit, money from the pit that goes into reserves going forward stays in the roads? Or is that, we're getting, like I said, I just like it that.
I believe it already is going back to Public Works
It is?
Reserves. It already was slated to go to Public Works
And,
Reserves.
okay, yeah.
There you go. That answers the question. Barb?
Thank you. You actually reminded me, because we also have property to purchase or expansion fees with regard to the Holstein pit. the licensing expansion. And so it makes sense to put it back into the tax stabilization reserve earmarked for roads or road related work. Yeah, public works. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Have you got more slides to go, Taylor? I think,
No, I think that's pretty.
is that it?
Oh, I had just updated the capital funding sources based on the changes from last time.
Okay,
And then updated the general reserves summary as well to show the decrease in reserves. So that will now need to be adjusted based on this motion.
okay.
And then I just put the capital budget back in here as well, but it has pretty much stayed the same with the exception of roads and the funding sources. And then no changes to the other department's capital based on previous.
Okay. And the debenture summary doesn't change?
Or sorry, yes, there was, I had an error in the Infrastructure Ontario
No, it was
line,
cash.
so
It was cash that made the error, not.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. We're still well within our annual repayment limit regardless of
Right.
said error.
And just so we're clear with everybody, what are those two debentures for? Cash?
Sorry. The CIBC, I believe, is for the waste,
Landfill at Egremont?
correct. And the Infrastructure Ontario debt is for the Main Street project. I forget the year that it was done. I want to say 2019, but could be wrong on that. But
Okay.
it was for the Main Street project, and portion of that is roads, and portion of that is water, wastewater.
Okay, thank you. Barb?
And we're going to be taking on more for Victoria Street. And how will that, what position will we be in when we take that on? Will we still be well within our comfort zone?
Definitely, yeah. The Victoria Street, I believe, is budgeted at 3.5 million. So depending on how long we amortize that for, we'd still be well within the 2.8 million repayment per year.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions? Jason?
Are we gonna go through these pages then, like department by department or the?
It's entirely up to what
No, I
council
just
wants.
wondered, yeah.
We certainly can, if that's the wish of council,
I just
or if
didn't
you
know.
have some questions
Well, I do, but I
specifically.
just didn't know that we were gonna, like, I know
Yep.
other years we've done that. but
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we finished, Taylor, you're finished your presentation?
Yep.
Okay, so if you've got questions related to other materials, by all means, now would be the time. Jason? Cool. Sure, it's 10 o'clock. Let's take a recess. We'll come back at, let's say 5 after 10. meeting back to order before the mayor gets into trouble. We're ready to go. Yes, we are. Thank you very much, Holly. Okay, so before we took the break, we were finished Taylor's report and presentation. Thank you, Taylor. And I think as I understand it, we're currently sitting at a 7.6-ish, maybe a 0.1 or something down, up, somewhere around there, but that's where we're at. Draft, of course. So there was some questions rose, Councillor Rice. So I think rather than go through all the attachments line by line, let's deal with questions. And because if one have questions, I'm sure others have questions as well. So we'll do it that way, unless I hear any objections. All right. Councillor Rice, you have a question or two or three?
Yeah, no, just to call, I guess it's to Jim in the,
Maybe just
Road.
reference what sheet you're on.
oh, sorry, yeah, attachment 2, page 18.
And is that of the
Oh, whatever.
new?
Yeah, the new one.
Okay.
Yeah, capital, sorry. I was just wondering, Jim, I understand what you're saying about the not enough room for the plows. I know it's only 100,000, but for insulating this shed, 110,000, I guess. It just, that kind of, oh, sorry, I don't know what line it is.
You're about 3/4 of the way
Three-quarter,
down
yeah,
the sheet.
I don't see no numbers. so- Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
Just want like 110,000 seems fairly cheap to me when you know, to me, you're gonna have to insulate it all. You're gonna have to put overhead doors in, probably a drainage in there. Just, I don't know. I know it's nice to have them parked inside, but you see all the contracted companies, most of them trucks are sitting outside. And I know it's not, it won't even amount to 1%. It just, to me, I'm wondering that would balloon to a lot bigger number than 110, but it's just kind of a question. And if we could put that off, maybe, I don't know.
Jim, do you want to respond, please?
Yeah, so that was a budget price that I got from Dom Construction. That's to insulate the walls, the ceiling, to put metal on the ceiling. And propane heating tubes in. The one door is a overhead electric door. The door to the north is not, it's a slider, so that's for replacement for that door as well. But the one thing that you mentioned and is not in the quote, and we built a little bit of contingency in, was that drainage for the flooring. So we haven't discussed it to length, but we would probably put a sump hole in that we could squeegee to kind of thing. We wouldn't put necessarily a whole trough in or anything like that. So to mitigate it and pipe it outside or whatever with an oil grit separator possibly. So that is a contingency. But that's the pricing that came in for Roxol insulation. Is the proposal for how he looked at it. Now we would have to tender it obviously, but those are current numbers. That those aren't from a year ago. Sometimes we get some budget numbers and they're a year old or something and they'll change, but this was end of the year, December quote, so.
And I think if I recall correctly, Dom built that building, did they not? Yeah, so they're quite familiar with the
Yeah,
building.
he came out and actually looked it over and measured it up.
Yeah. Another question, Jason?
I guess the one other one I had was, I'm not sure what page, I hope you'll find it here, the 80,000 for the, I guess that'd be the DINA, the multi-use facility. Looking forward, is it 2026? Kind of got it in there as, I can't.
Yes, I'm actually in the middle of writing a report that's coming forward to council, just about the plans for building facilities going forward, and I'm hoping to have that on the next council meeting. I'm expecting that to come on March 6th. That really talks about what the plans are for going forward at this point.
I guess my question was, and I guess I don't understand how things work out. Like, so we've budgeted 80,000 this year. And it's a big project, not too far away in a few years, but like I don't know how that works. Like, it's staff's talked about it and council has talked about it, but it's never been really approved that I know of. So I'm just wondering how $80,000 gets spent on something that's not even approved yet. So, or am I totally? Yeah, but can you, well, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, so council did direct me to go forward on designing that land. And then I'm coming forward with that open report at the next meeting that kind of talks about all the information that has been given as far as land exchanges and things like that, so that we can move forward with bringing forward the things that the community needs. And I'm also acting on the community strategic plan. If you note in the community strategic plan, there are action items in there, and one of them is more than one of them, but one of them specifically is to develop that administration office and other things around the urban center in Dundalk. So that is what I'm acting on, is some of those action items and council direction.
No, I get it. It just seems to spend a lot of money until, like, when it comes down to the actual day, if we spent this much money and we don't go ahead with it. So
We still have
just-
the RFP process where if council's not satisfied, we can go forward with something else, but we do have that RFP process, which will come back to council.
Yeah.
We obtained 3 quotes, and this is just the 3 estimations, and this is just kind of the budget that we've set aside based on those estimations from those architectural firms.
Okay. Any other? Jason, you have any more? Okay. Anyone else have any? Barb?
Back to page 18, the Proton Street parking lot. I'm through you and I'm thinking Jim could enlighten council. This has been in the reserves for a little while. It was proceeds from almost a land swap as well for the drugstore, correct? And that money's been earmarked to pave and line the parking lot for some time.
Jim?
That is correct. That was the strategy, but in part of that project was the install of the chargers, putting the overhead lighting in the parking lot. So we've consumed a number of dollars in the last few years. We haven't got to the finish line yet, but we're getting closer. There's still some agreement to work out with the neighboring property owner. But this 75,000 is earmarked for some curbs still needs to go in. And we were hoping to have that in the late fall, but it didn't materialize. And then the paving portion. So that's basically what, it's been an ongoing project and we've consumed funds and we still need funds.
Thank you.
And by the way, the EV chargers are currently now fully functional. It's taken a while too. There's been a couple of hiccups, but we will be bringing a report with a policy here in the next few council meetings to have, it'll enlighten about the charging system and how that operates. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions? Go ahead, Joan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 13 of 32, 2025.
Yep.
Just a little bit of explanation on the sports field development for 400,000. I don't know if Kevin is online or if anybody could explain that.
Okay. Kevin, are you online? Yep, there he is.
I'm here.
Morning.
Yeah,
We're on page
that's
32.
DC charges.
It's referring to the item, is it budgeted in 2025 sports field development for 400,000? Is that correct, Joan? Yeah. So Kevin, if you could just speak to that, please.
Yeah, that's DC charges. So that's just put in there what we gain for DC charges. That's no taxation or anything, but if we decide to go ahead and start developing some, we have that money there.
Okay.
If that answers.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll take Barb first and then Jason. Barb?
While we have Kevin on the line, Kevin, could you just update us on the Norm Jack Park? I want to thank you for responding to some questions and concerns. What is the anticipated finishing date? I know there's still 2 soccer fields, one's almost ready. Could you just give us an update on that?
Yeah, so I'd say 50% of it's done. They wanted us to assume some of that last fall, but the drawback to that is the parking for the park is an unfinished area of the subdivision. So there's no parking, no access. I guess you'd have access walking to it from the subdivision, but we wouldn't even at this point have access to get equipment down in there. So we decided that we weren't anywhere near close to assuming any of that parkland till they get that parking done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Jason?
Just going, it's a pretty small item, Kevin, but going back to that roof in Hopeville and stuff like that, I think we talked about it a little bit, like those, I mean, I grew up playing ball there, but like nobody uses those facilities. Where, I don't, when do we stop putting money into them that they're not, they're not being used? And I guess that's a bigger question. I don't know, just kind of, I see it's out of reserves and that anyway, but.
Kevin?
Maybe that's too broad.
Yeah, we got a few facilities we could possibly look at, what we're putting money in, to, but, yeah, I can hold off on that roof. Really, that facility needs to be looked at, but, there is a lot of historic citizens of the community that, would still have a lot of, attachments to that park. So, when do we look at, getting rid of some of the historic attachments and moving forward is a decision that, yeah, we should be making here soon.
Does Kevin, does the recreation master plan speak to any of those kind of timelines?
Yeah, most of those facilities fall under, a couple of the facilities fall under the 2025 timeline due to accessibility. Hopeville Park was in there based on usage if it dropped off anymore. So, and it has dropped off more. So yes, a lot of this was in the plan that was going to be presented at the rec committee, but we didn't have quorum on that. So we need to, sit down and take a serious look at where we're heading in the future with some of these facilities, which, that could be a staff report I can bring to council if you so wish.
Well, we'll let the rec committee have a go at it first, and then we'll see where it's at. But thank you for that. Thank you. Any other questions for anyone, really? Martin?
No, just jumping on that with the Swinton Park, places that have been used. Are they in the asset management to look at those places? Because if they're not going to be kept up to not code, but usage.
Cash?
So with asset management, our 2024 update is where we will include all these assets, such as parkland, and so on. On the staff side, we have started information gathering for this. So hopefully by July 1st, council will see the updated asset management plan.
Thanks, Cash. Any other questions? Okay. Go back to my agenda here to find out where we're at. So we do have a motion here to accept the draft budget. For now, where is and where we're at. I think we moved and seconded, did we not?
We didn't, no.
We did not?
No.
The heck was the chair thinking? Who's in charge here anyway?
I missed it too, or I
You're
would've
in
called
charge.
you on
Yeah,
it.
okay. So it's the clerk's fault.
Yeah, I'll take that
We
one.
can agree on that. So I do need a mover and seconder. Monica and Martin, thank you. Any further discussion on where we're at so far? I mean, we will be having another third round and public opportunity at the next meeting, and I forget the date of that, but is it the next council meeting? Yes. So in 2 weeks or whatever. So Jason, go ahead.
So just we're at 7.6%, is that? Yeah.
Yes, yes, we are.
And last meeting, we were at 6 something.
5.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah, instead of going down.
Yeah, but you like 10% better.
If we're going all the
If
roads,
we're
then-
going all roads, that's right. Okay, so just so that we don't forget that little gem. All right, any further discussion or questions regarding the draft budget as it stands currently? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Taylor, and indeed all staff that helped out with that discussion. Resolve back to council. We need a motion to resolve back into the special council meeting at 10:28. Someone care to move that, please? Jim and Monica, thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so now we're on to motions resulting from committee of the whole. So 7-1, 7-2. Do we need to vote on all these? No. Well, yes, 7-1 and 7-2, but
Yeah,
not
not
7.
7-3 because
Okay,
that failed.
right. So these are the recommendations that have come out of our discussions this morning. So, yep, go ahead, Barb.
So I'm not sure, but I don't see the resolution on my screen in the agenda that we're going to be voting on. I think we just have to go back to the original report
No, it's in the agenda, 7.1.
yeah.
So my report will be first and then fire
No, I
chiefs.
see the reports. I don't see the resolution.
It must just be the way you're.
Yeah, it must be.
I can show you.
Could maybe we put it up on
Sure.
screen?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for this motion and the next one, nothing has changed from our discussion or.
No, it's just if I may,
Yep.
Mayor Milne.
Please.
Just when we're sitting in committee of the whole, we have to then do basically the exact same things once we resolve back to council
Right.
is all we're doing here.
Because committee of whole is simply making the recommendation.
Yeah.
That's
council.
correct. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the first one is regarding the training and budget, conference budget information that we discussed earlier. So the motion is there for your consideration. Would someone care to move that, please? Martin, seconded by Jim. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next is budget considerations from our earlier discussion regarding the fire budget. And the 3 items there that were included in our discussion from earlier as well. So this is the recommendation to council from our committee. Someone care to move that, please? Jim and Barb, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We do not need 7-3 because it failed at the committee level. 7-4 is the draft budget that we have in front of us as it stands so far.
And if I may, that one will also include the motion that we approved about Road 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I need a mover to move that, please. Joan and Monica, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Confirming bylaw. Someone care to move? Jim? And Barb, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. One more motion to adjourn council portion. Barb and Monica, thank you. All those in favor? That carries. Stand adjourned from our special meeting, our council